Hi, and a very, very, very warm welcome to this BHC latest how-to event as part of our ongoing education. I'm also really thrilled to be here with two wonderful BHC members, Angelica and Margot. Lovely to see you both. So I'm just going to give you a wave. And we're also recording this just for the benefit of all BHC members. And today's session is a two-parter. It's about getting things done, and it's about getting and being cooperative. For the purpose of this, what we're going to do is that we're going to record this so that everybody can see it. But then we're also here going to have our own chat afterward, we'll stop the recording for that. But let's dive in. And actually, I don't know if you'd be both happy to say, actually, just for the recording, would you be just happy to say your name and the committees that you've been involved in, just to give people a sense? I'm Rashid. I'm involved in the communications committee. And Margot, do you want to just say a quick hello?
Hi, yeah, I'm Margot and I'm on the management committee, and I'm also the chair of the membership committee at present.
Wonderful. Angelica.
Hello, nice to be here. And yes, I'm a member of the finance committee.
Really, really, really wonderful. Thanks. Let's dive in. So I'm just going to move on the slides. So really today is about getting things done, and it's about being cooperative. When it comes to getting things done, anything, and we tend to run this session at the first, in January is the first one every month, because it's a time when often people are thinking about where they are in their lives or in their work or at home or whatever. People often set goals and resolutions and so on. So there's a number of elements to it. First of all, what's your mission? What's your goal? Why are you here? What is it you're trying to achieve personally or professionally? Or, in this case, also what we're trying to achieve as BHC. There's also something about what's your vision? What would success actually look like and be like? So, what would BHC look like if everything was going well? What would it be like? Sometimes it's also good for you to have a little bit of a strategy, a plan. How are you going to get there? Think about it. If you're going, away on a holiday, you'd probably have your plan, your route map about what you're going to do. And you might need the tools, team, resources to help you achieve it. It's a bit like BHC meetings. We often need, we'll need a group. We just heard from people and members of different committees. So you might need a team of people, you might need resources to achieve it. And also the mindset is really, really important. So it's worth thinking about, what are the things that you're wanting to achieve in work and in life? And we'll come back to that in a while, but we're going to dive into part one, which is about BHC. So one of the things that, I just asked this question, worth thinking about, for you, what would success look like and be like for you in your home or in your work? What would success look like be for your committee or for your group? And it's quite funny timing, isn't it? Margot, I know we're going to soon do a little session for the membership subcommittee who are wanting to just kind of have a little bit of a refresh. So presumably that's something that you're keen to look at then.
Well, because we're a new team, because quite a number of established people have left, and so it's integrating new people into a smaller established team, and that could be difficult, but I think it's important that we kind of focus on that and making those people feel at home there, because we want to keep them, obviously.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's so great. And so this session is really helping us to think about, okay, well, what would success look like for us as a co-op? And for that, I guess we need to know some information about BHC. And I remember that before running the session, I didn't know much about BHC. So we've got a very, very quick quiz, which we will kind of throw at anybody who's listening out there. So what is BHC? How is it run and how is it managed? Can you list all of BHC's committees on what they do? And can you also name the chairs of all of those committees and subcommittees? And why is it important to know? Now, we've given them a bit of a head start because, Margot, we know that you're currently chair of membership committee. But just for fun, Angelica, I'm not going to put you on the spot on the thing, but would you generally, before getting involved in committees recently, how much of this kind of stuff would you say that you knew? Did you feel as though you knew that much about BHC, how it was run and managed and so on?
When I started, you mean?
Yeah, when you started, yeah.
No, that took years and years to, kind of to have a sense of, you know, how, well, I mean, right at the beginning, you get to know how self-governing the Brixton Housing Co-op is. And, you know, that it's run, you know, by committees. And so I knew the committees, but I wouldn't have known who chaired it except the one who chaired the general meeting, of course, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's common for so many of us. So let's kind of take a look. So we're going to touch a little bit about on the BHC structure and its committees, things like the annual general meetings and our general meetings and the policies and procedures in terms of reference and standing orders. And there's the BHC, because it's cooperative housing, there is an overall organisation called the Confederation of Cooperative Housing, and we've got lots of information on BHC also on our co-op website, which you'll see there, which is relatively new in the recent years. So let's take a quick look here. So really what we've got here is, and a bit like Angelica, I didn't know that much at the start. I kind of just knew that we're kind of cooperative and we're kind of members, but I didn't really know much. But if we take a look at this little chart here, we've got BHC members. That's all of us who live here in BHC. And we have general meetings and an annual general meeting. So like lots of organizations, they have their annual general meetings that's got formal things to discuss. And the general meetings are there up throughout the year. We have our annual general meeting once a year, and we will usually have 4 general meetings throughout the year, 1 every season. And the day of the annual general meeting, there will be an annual general meeting and a general meeting. So because we're member-led, I put the schematic this way because BHC members and the general meetings and the AGM is how we're led. We've then got a management committee that is, if you like, elected on behalf of BHC to run BHC. And it in turn has subcommittees. We've got currently membership, finance and employment, which Angelica is a member of, membership, as Margot, who's a member of and chair of, maintenance. We've got a development subcommittee and communications community, which I currently sit on. And over the time that BHC has been around, those committees have changed. And you'll see here, we've also got 2, we're member-led, but we have 2, if you like, contractors, our housing manager who looks after the rents, all of that kind of stuff, and our maintenance worker who looks after, coordinates the maintenance stuff. So that's kind of that schematic. And I'm not going to go into this into too much detail, but you can see here, we've got a slide here, which is about our annual general meeting and those general meetings. So the beauty of this is if you're watching this at home, you can just pause this and have a look and have a read. But really the annual, but it does say here that our AGM, we usually hold it in June, and it's where we decide the major issues that affect us, major policy things, there might be new intake issues, or, and it's also where the management committee is voted in from our, from our general membership. And sometimes we also have decisions made at special general meetings if there's something very pressing. And if there's something we need to vote on, it's a 1 member, 1 vote. And if you can't be there, then you can have that proxy. And then we have general meetings where there's more regular kind of updates. So those are the general meetings and the AGMs. And it's a really good starting point to be really in touch with BHC and what BHC is all about. BHC's run via 7 cooperative principles. These are cooperative principles that you'll find throughout the cooperative movement: democratic under member control, voluntary and open membership, and member economic participation. So I don't know if you both remember, I think we all pay, I think, £1 when we first become a member and so on. Autonomy and independence. We have education and training and information. And also trying to be cooperative amongst other cooperatives and concern the community. So those are the 7 cooperative principles that we aim to work under. Here we've got details of what the management committee does. I'll let you freeze it at home if you're wanting to go into any detail. But if you think about it, management really has that overall responsibility to ensure that we operate legally, we comply with all the legislation, that we're financially sound, and that we follow all of our policies and procedures. And they're also responsible for that, having that oversight of all the subcommittees. And I think it's really interesting, Margot, I think at the moment, isn't it? Yeah, because you're also on management, but at the time of recording this, it happens to be a time where there's there seems to be quite a lot of new legislation coming down the line. So it's always those kind of things that management might need to keep an eye on. Anything that you wanted to say about that in a sentence or so?
I don't know an awful lot about it, but I do know that we are going to, there are the new legislation relating to social housing is going to affect us, and there are things, that legally we have to do, really. One of them being a tenant survey that's, that we've got to do, tenant satisfaction survey. So management is actually, getting to grips with that, really, of what we're expected to do.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of responsibility there, particularly for those on the management committee, for all of those kind of reasons. Management currently meet on the fourth Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. We've got then membership subcommittee, Marco, which you've just kind of, I think, rejoined, or you've now stepped up as chair. Did you just want to say, as we're lucky enough to have you here, could you just say in a sentence or two what the membership subcommittee do?
Oh gosh, well, I mean, you've got it there, really. And recently one of the things that we've done, I think it's over a year now, is, taking in some new members, because obviously all our members were housed, but it is about, managing the membership, and so keeping list of people who are on our housing list or transfer list, informing them of properties that are coming up, so that they can apply if they're not housed already, if they're still waiting to be housed, if they're a new member. So it's kind of all that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yes,
We've got
and the occupancy survey, which we did do, but which is we're going to have to actually do that again because it hasn't been done for a while. So there is quite a lot, and and updating policies and stuff, really, relating to membership.
Right. So there's quite a lot. So I guess so as you said, the times where, for example, where we've got the new intake, overseeing that, things like where people are wanting to transfer, overseeing that, and there might be other just membership related issues, including, like as you say, the occupancy survey and so on. So all of those things that relate to us as members in our homes. Then we've got the Finance and Employment Subcommittee, and we're lucky here. Angelica, you're part of the Finance and Employment Subcommittee, and people often call it finance, but technically there's also that employment bit as well. Did you just want to just say a sentence for anyone who might be thinking, oh my goodness, employment and finance, what's that about?
Oh dear, I'm not very good at saying things like that. Well, I mean, the name itself already says nearly everything, isn't it? Because, we very much work with our housing manager, who is overlooking the rent aspects of, because we decide what kind of rent we are charging, and so it's regarding the rent arrears, how to keep on top of it, what offered to members if they get into rent arrears. And then, of course, there is quite a lot involved, because there's the budget that needs to be looked at, and anything to do with the financing of the co-op and the financial running of the co-op. And also we have two, self-employed people working for us, the housing manager and the maintenance worker. That's also something, we are partly responsible for. I mean, in the end, it's the management committee, of course, but yep. I don't know.
That's magical, and that's so much better than I would have done it. That's fantastic. that's really, really fantastic. And again, we can see why that work is just so important. Then we've got the maintenance subcommittee. We've also got a short video here from Sylvan, who just tells us what they do. Let's hear in Sylvan's word, who's currently co-chair of our maintenance subcommittee. Let's hear from him what maintenance does. Let's hear from him.
Hi everyone, welcome to Brixton Housing Co. Congratulations on becoming probationary members.
And I'll just pause in there. He first recorded this for a new set of probationary members, but everything he says will relate to us, whether we're probationary or whether we're a long-standing member. Let's go back to here, Sylvan.
My name is Sylvan and I am the chair of the maintenance committee. Maintenance committee obviously deals with the ongoing repairs and just generally looking after our properties, but also we're currently looking into how to make our properties greener and more energy efficient and therefore also cheaper to run and healthier homes. So there's quite a lot of interesting stuff going on at the moment. We'd love it if you could join us. Now, you don't need any experience in that sector. For example, we have got some people who have joined us or who advise us, who are architects, electricians, plumbers, and so on. But for example, I'm a chef and I am the chair of the committee. So no experience is needed, although that is welcome. But, you know, as I said, you'll pick stuff up as you go along. Really, it's just about decision making. Our meetings are usually about an hour and a half. And at the moment, they're on Zoom. I'm hoping that we can pick them up again in the next couple of months in-person meetings. It just makes the whole thing flow a bit more smoothly, I think. And because they're at 7 p.m, we always bring in a little bit of food and have our meetings that way. So if you are interested in joining maintenance,
of course, in there, get in touch. Get in touch with the maintenance worker. He's doing a great job of promoting that. So that's fantastic. And there's also a Green Working Party that is kind of linked to maintenance. That is looking at those ongoing sustainable issues, because there's quite a lot of work there. So it's like a working group that kind of report into the maintenance subcommittee. So we're nearly there. We've got the development subcommittee. They look after new developments. We've currently got a couple of major kind of redevelopments. So sometimes it might well be that there's a significant change that might need to be made to an existing property, or should BHC ever be looking to develop other properties, that's the realm of the development subcommittee. So that's the work that they do. And then we've got the communications and community subcommittee, and this is the one that I'm currently on and I currently chair. And that's really set up to help members stay informed and involved. So we do things like this ongoing education. We are responsible for the newsletter and the website and our YouTube channel. And we kind of support on the general meetings and so on. So that's what we do. And for more information, we have got a YouTube channel, which you'll see there, and our YouTube channel, which we've got there. So to give people more information. And of course, these two wonderful people who we all recognise, right? The wonderful Glenda, our housing manager, and Tim, who is our maintenance officer. I had to really struggle with them to both give a photograph, but they're both absolutely lovely, and we're very, very grateful to have them help us, Glenda, and all the rents and all of that kind of stuff, so much of our compliance work, and Tim, where there are maintenance issues, your first port of call will be reporting it to Tim, and there's the office number. Just a couple of other things, really, before we wrap up this bit. There's the Confederation of Cooperative Housing that I mentioned before, that has that oversight of us being a co-op and from a housing perspective, and all those cooperative housing organisations. There'll be key legislation that links to us. Margot touched on that. We touched on these 7 cooperative principles, and then there are terms of reference for each subcommittee which kind of explain how it is that they work. And sometimes you'll see standing orders, which are the regular items that that committee will go through. So you know, and to help BHC be run effectively, there's BHC rules. There's a set of rules in terms of how we're governed. You'll find those on our website. those terms of references, a reference again for management committee and those subcommittees, and we've got a code of conduct that particularly relates to the management committee that they align to. And then there might be all sorts of policies and procedures for all sorts of different things that are done, for example, allocations or new members and so on. So there's quite a lot of stuff to be done, and you'll find that lots of that stuff is on our website. So I mean, Margot and Angelica, anything you want to say about that? I think the only thing I would say is that for anyone, don't be too daunted. It can seem like a lot of stuff. It's just often step by step, little by little, that we learn. I mean, I think it took me years before I knew anything that I felt that was going on. Anything more that you want to say on that? Any advice that you would have to anyone who's feeling, oh my gosh, it does feel a little bit daunting? Margot, anything you would say to anyone who?
I was going to say, I think you're right, Rashid. You know, it can be a bit daunting when you go in, but actually most of the committees are really friendly, and actually don't be afraid to ask questions, really, you know, and if you don't understand, rather than sort of being mystified, please, you know, I always feel it's better to ask and to ask for clarification. I think most people will be quite happy to explain those issues to you, and I think it is bit by bit that you learn things by being on the committee, and you start understanding how things fit together between the committees.
Yeah, thanks so much. And Angelica, again, for you, is there any advice you would have for anyone who's feeling, oh, I'm not quite sure? Would you have any tips or advice for anyone?
Well, take your time. I mean, the one, you know, to get in a sense of what's going on. I mean, this is a personal experience. I found it very helpful to also get into social setup, because then, you know, it's like experiencing people, you know, kind of on a different level.
Really
so I like the coffee mornings, or, you know, I'm involved in a textile group, you know, where some of us meet just to mend clothes, or, you know, kind of sew, or yes, I mean, that's
such lovely advice, actually. And on that note, what you said, here we are, here we have a picture of our coffee morning. We tend to run them throughout the year, and there you are, Angelica, beaming there, enjoying a coffee. I don't think you were at this particular marker, but they are really friendly, and I think that's really good advice, isn't it? Things like that are a good way to sometimes connect or reconnect with BHC, kind of learn, but chat and just get to know people. And we do have these ongoing education events that are usually once every month, so do look out for those. And just one thing that I wanted to wrap up, and it's important for me to say, especially with the chair of the membership committee here, but there are a number of different ways we're all expected to our activity hours. I think it's currently, but might will change. I think it's currently around 36 hours per year. The general meetings and the annual general meeting all count toward that, so that counts toward that time. Attending, being a member of a committee and subcommittee, attending those meetings counts toward that, or activity supporting the housing manager, or attending these live sessions also counts toward that. And sometimes we also have working groups as well, or you might be able to support those committees in other ways. So there are quite a lot of ways of doing your activity hours. I just wanted to just ask you just one last question on this, just to say, it might sound like a funny thing to say, but would you say that you've gained skills and things by being part of BHC? Because sometimes it can be, like we've said, it can be daunting. It is something that we do on top of everything else. But would you say that there are things that you've kind of learned and gained by being part of BHC? Anything you'd say on that, Margot?
Yes, I mean, I have gained skills, you know, but kind of the skills of being in a meeting and getting your voice heard, really, and, you know, and what I was saying about asking questions, I do ask a lot of questions, I know, but
Good questions, can I add? And I think
but for clarification, so you understand what's, you know, what you kind of start understanding how it all fits together, as I said, how the committees fit together, how we work, you know. So I've learned a lot, and I'm still learning, being on, you know, just joining management, I'm still learning. So lots of skills, and also how to put your point tactfully and confidently at a meeting, really. Yes, you know,
really
to
good
get
advice.
your voice heard, really.
I think that's so true.
When you feel, you know, when you feel you're kind of, yes, I'll leave it at that.
I think that's a lovely point, isn't it? Because actually going along to those meetings, even if you're not involved in committees, might be sometimes you could, that's such an important point. You can go along to any committee and they're all open, so that even if you're not on a committee and so on, you can go along, have your voice heard, listen, learn, and so on. I think, Angelica, one of the things that I think if I'd started my BHC life again, I think one of the things I would have done before joining committee might have also been just go to a number, begun to a number of them and just get a feel for them, so I could feel comfortable. Anything else you want to say about that, your experience? Have you learned things along the way? Anything you want?
A lot, because it is, kind of, you are in a group setup, and I think, kind of one can learn amazing skills, because we are such an unusual setup with being landlords and tenants at the same time. And and kind of that the skill of working together in combining, also different attitudes, and finding democratic ways to, I mean, I find, kind of the co-op as such is a really good life school. What I'm learning here, I can use anywhere. So, especially also in work and, kind of, yep. I won't say more.
I think that's so powerful, because I think that brings those cooperative principles to life, that being democratic and seeing what it's like, different people, different skills, different points of view, and so on. Okay, so part two of this is really of this getting things done and being cooperative, I guess, is about ourselves. And I guess, when I guess at any time in our lives, there may well be things that we're wanting to get done. It might be, you might think, oh my gosh, I need to mend that car fence, or I need to, I'm wanting to get fit and healthy. It starts off with ourselves. So one of the things that I'll invite anyone at home to do, and I think you've both done this in former sessions before, is to draw a picture of what you like at your best and to describe yourself in 20 positive words, because I think it all starts with that kind of self-knowledge. For example, Margot and Angelica, just to share, I'll often draw a picture of me like I'll draw like a calm sea, like with the sunrise, because at my best, I feel really calm and serene, and that's me at my best. And when I remember that, it really, really just helps me. And there's something about knowing what people and places energize you or drain you. Now, Margot, I happen to know that you love, you've got an allotment, and I know that you get a lot of joy out of that. So is that something you were always conscious of, knowing what kind of places and environments get the best out of you? Because this is such an important point, isn't it? Once you kind of know yourself well, it can really help you to kind of get the best out of yourself. Anything you want to say about that, being a kind of outdoors person?
I mean, I suppose when I was, when I was working full time, because I was a teacher, I loved nature and, like to do things with the children outside. But I didn't get time to do my allotment or stuff like that. It's since I've had more time on my hands that actually that's come to the front, and it's actually that is something that calms me, grounds me, centers me, really. So yeah, that's me.
Really...
That's me at my best. And if I can take that, that feeling into more difficult kind of scenarios, then keep yourself in that grounded way. Yeah, but
that's really good advice, isn't it? Yeah. Well, how about yourself, Angelica? This thing, because I know you did this exercise in the past, but would you also say it's really valuable, important for people to kind of understand themselves and just know themselves so that they can get the best out of themselves? So I put here, for example, knowing what time's the best time for you to sleep or to do admin or logical work or problem solving, creative work. So for example, for me, Angelica, I know that some co-op meetings, sometimes I find meetings, because I'm a morning person, kind of tough. So I know I'm not necessarily at my absolute best in the evening. So I just have to kind of manage my energy when I get to there. Anything you want to say about this thing about just knowing oneself in order to get the best out of oneself?
Oh gosh, you really put one on the spot, aren't you? Yes, I mean it is. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say anything to that at the moment. But sheet.
But one of the things I like, well, one of the things I like about you, Angelica, is that I like the fact that you do self-reflect. And I think that this slide just is inviting us all to think, just stop and think, okay, what am I like at my best? What times am I? And it might change. It's a bit like Margot was saying, isn't it? It might change at certain times of life as well, which is fascinating. But
Well,
yeah,
all I can say, a balance is really important.
really
You know,
was.
like, you know, whatever one does, that one, you know, kind of also does something really positive, or, you know, kind of what re-energizes, and everybody is different in that. I mean, some people re-energize, and, you know, by watching TV for a couple of hours, while others, you know, go into nature, or I mean, nature I find helpful. I myself find my you know, kind of you know, gosh, I can't think at the moment. I feel so on the spot.
Oh, you do
But
well.
meditation, you know,
Yeah.
kind of meditation, and anything that calms me emotionally, and nature and meditation are fantastic for that. And
That's,
good company.
yeah, that's so wise, you know, Angelica. I think that thing,
It's
because when
socializing is also wonderful. Yep.
right, that no, that's so wise, isn't it? Because sometimes we're trying to get things done. It can be, you know, we can be very much trying to get this done, that done, that done, and that time out, be it that somebody's in time in nature and their allotment, or watching, you know, the favorite TV, or reading a book or whatever, is a really important balance. So I think those are really important additional tips. So this slide, if you're at home, think about, how do you see yourself? How do other people see you? You know, what times, what you like at your best. So you can just be self-aware in whatever it is you're trying to do. This slide here is just something I bring to everyone's attention that sometimes can be really useful. Often when we are trying to get things done, we often think about time. I've got to get this done. I need to get this done. But we often forget about these other two things, which actually both Margot and Angelica pointed to: your energy. What's your energy like? What gives you energy? Maybe for me, I need to make sure I've had my sleep, or it might be catching up with certain people I find really energizing. And Angelica was just talking about that. So energy, and sometimes also space, that time in nature, or headspace, or having a clear thinking space. So I have a saying that too much content leads to discontent. So sometimes it's about just making that space. And Angelica was just there saying about how things like meditation or things like that can just help you create that space, especially in today's world where we're often so busy. So the other thing I put here is, so energy and time. So if you've got a lot of energy, then maybe you might be able to get quite a lot done. Or if you've got lots of time, you might be able to get a lot of stuff done. But if your energy is lower, even if you've got lots of time, you may not be able to get that much stuff done. But also there's something about here, I've just put, but be aware of what are your own perceptions, what are the demands on you, what your expectations. Sometimes we might put too much expectations on ourselves. So that's just something to be aware of when you're trying to get things done, when you're at your best, what energizes you, what drains you, and maybe even just spot when you slump and so on, you know, when you're at your best and when you kind of have a slump and so on. The other thing here about getting things done that's so important is our attitude, our mindset. What I put here on the right is a bit about tips. You know, if you're trying to get something done, first of all, have a plan. It's a bit like, imagine if you're going on holiday, the first thing you can have is a plan. Where are we going to go? You're going to begin to plan, isn't it? You can think about putting money aside. So you think about having a plan. Where am I going to go? When am I going to go? What places do I want to see? Then it's about preparing. So again, if you're likening it to a holiday, who am I going to go with? What people? And then you might even practice or preview. You might start, it's funny when you're going on something like holiday, you might even start visualizing it. And then it's about performing and perfecting. So with anything you're wanting to try and get done, it might be that you're writing a report for BHC, or you could be working on something at work. These things are really important to plan and think about, what's the purpose? How are you going to prepare, and what people can help you? What people do you need to involve? Sometimes getting a little bit of practice running it through. So let's liken it going back to things like BHC, and let's say you've joined a new committee. Find out a little bit about the committee, get to know the people. Maybe you've been asked to take on minutes, but maybe chat to somebody who's done that before who can help you. And then it's about performing and perfecting. It's an ongoing learning journey. And this slide on the right-hand side is just talking about having that attitude of an athlete. You know, whatever you're trying to do, study your field, bit by bit, master your craft, gather the team, get to know other people, your competitors. Sometimes your competitors can, even in sports, some people they're competitors, but they're good friends. So win and keeping supporters. and learning from your trials and errors, learning from everything, including the things that the races you don't win. So there will be, for example, if we link it back to BHC, there'll be meetings where you think, oh my gosh, that didn't go well, or I didn't have that conversation well. I think if you're able to just learn, I think, going back to the things that I can't remember who said that, Angelica or Margot, but I think I've learned so much about BHC from the meetings and so on that haven't gone well. I often now, what I've learned to do is kind of reflect and think, oh my goodness, I didn't do that well. What do I need to do? And so on. I think so it's important, that point of the slide here is sometimes really not to beat yourself up and to be on your own side here with anything you're trying to achieve. So let's head further forward. I'm not going to go into this slide too much, but again, for those, if you're here at home and you're trying to get things done, here's a quick tip. Anything. Ask yourself, first of all, what is the task that you're trying to do? Is it mending that garden fence? Is it clearing out the wardrobe that you've said that you're going to do for ages? Is your task to get the committee together? Ask yourself, what's your task? You might then think about what's going on. When I say terrain, I mean what's going on in the environment. What's the team you need to help you achieve that task? Sometimes it might just be you, but sometimes there might be friends who can help you clear the garage, or the other committee members. And what's the tools and technology you need? So this is a good way to think about what those different bits and pieces I need to achieve, and what's the time frame. So I guess, funny enough, Margot, you were talking a little bit about how we're going to be doing this session for the membership subcommittee. I think one of the things that we'll probably do there is just to think a little bit about, okay, what's the task? What are we trying to achieve here? How are we as a team? What tools and support do we need? And what's kind of going on for members, our members, and perhaps in the broader thingy, and then perhaps coming up with a timeline. So looking at this, can you see how this might be kind of a helpful thing for us to perhaps use?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
yeah.
no, indeed, actually, thank you, because we are going to discuss it, and I was like, oh, I haven't really thought about this, so focusing on this might help me. Thank you.
And also, I'm going to bring your attention to the thing that's in the top left-hand corner here that can be useful with some things. And I think this will really be relevant for something like membership as committee, or a committee like, Angelica's here with finance committee, from the finance committee and employment subcommittee, or for a committee like management. This can be really useful to think about. Some of you people might have heard of a thing called a SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But there's another thing called a PEST analysis. What are the P stands for political, what are the political factors? So BHC management might be thinking, well, what might happen if there's a change in government? What are the economic factors? At the moment, there's a cost of living crisis. Well, how might people be coping with things like their rents? What are the social factors? Are the factors that are going on in terms of people in society, how they engage with things, technological factors. So, for example, a while ago, our housing manager changed from sending some of the rent statements by paper electronically. So this is a really good way sometimes to look at challenging things. Okay, what are the political, what are the economic, what are the social and technological things that could be useful? So that's a little bit about that. This is a fun one, actually. I'm briefly going to talk about this. If you're trying to develop people, so sometimes we're trying to get people on board. I put this here that there's a number of different elements. What's that person's character and what motivates them? So, Angelica was just saying something really wise before about, with BHC, get to know the people, because once you get to know the people, you get to know a little bit about their character and what motivates them. So what's the character of somebody? What's their capability or their competence or their capacity? So when we're trying to get things done at BHC, there can be some people, isn't it? There'll be some times where some people might have certain skills that we might be wanting to bring on board, but there will be certain times in our lives when we might not have the capacity. That happens a lot of the time, isn't it? Where our lives are just so busy, we may not have the times. We might need to take a step back. So we might even have the competence, but we just don't have that capacity. And I think that's a really important thing. And what's somebody's confidence? So these are the three different building blocks. So let's say we've got somebody new on board who joined a committee. Okay, what's their character? What do they really enjoy? What are their skills? What are they kind of good at? And how much time do they have? And how can we build up their confidence? And then this thing outside, I put, okay, what's the clarity? How clear are we on the purpose? and how can we create together. So this is just a little tool helping us to understand ourselves a little bit better. So I'll move on from that. I put this other slide on here for anybody right now who's trying to get anything done. And some of us at BHC, we might also have our day-to-day lives. Some of us are our own boss, or we work. And so this is a little tool that I've shared, which is about getting things done. And it's particularly from a business context, or you could apply it for anything else. So many of you, this is something that might be useful in your life. So first of all, let's start here with this person. This person's got an idea. Now, that idea might be a new business. Their idea might be a new project they're trying to get done, or their idea might be something that they're trying to persuade a committee to do. So once you've got your idea, what are your presumptions? What are you assuming? Okay, maybe you might be assuming that people will be interested, or that you'll be able to get it done. What are your assumptions? What are your presumptions? Once you've thought about that, what planning and research do you need to do? So it might be that you might think, oh, I need to find out about that particular market, or I need to find out a little bit of that committee, or I need to find out more about how many properties we've got. If I've got this idea that we might be able to fit these new energy saving things to every home, what planning and research might you need to do? What people do you need to involve? Who do you need to talk to? What people perhaps in BHC, or what people in your life? This bit here where it says preparation and product development is talking about, well, what do you need to prepare? Think about it like if you're having a dinner party. What would be the things that you would need to prepare? And promotion, how are you going to need to promote that idea? And what might be the problems or the pitfalls? What might the challenges be? Well, these people might not like this idea. This people might find it difficult. And then this last bit is about the perspiration, the practicalities, that there's ongoing development. But with anything you're trying to do, there'll be some things that you might know, some things that might be unknown, and some things might be unknowables. So that's just a broad thing there, but I just thought I would literally put that on the table. Did that pique your interest there? I've talked about it in very broad terms, but it's just a useful tool sometimes to think about. You know, sometimes when we're trying to get anything done, it can be really daunting, and breaking it down into these little chunks can sometimes just help us think, okay, here's my idea. What am I assuming? What do I need to do? Again, if you're at home, do just maybe pause this and maybe have fun. Think of something that you're working on at the moment and you're trying to get done, and maybe try and go through these different bubbles. Just a couple of other things I'm going to say quickly before I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'm going to have a chat with my wonderful two friends here. Remember, everybody, if you're trying to get anything done, people are usually involved. So you need to understand that we're all different, and we all see things differently. We've got different ideas, different beliefs, different values, different agendas, different upbringings, and it's what can make life really tough sometimes. So being cooperative isn't as easy as it might sound on the tin. There can be challenges. We all know that, isn't it? My friend Angelica's smiling. We've all been there, isn't it? And so taking that time to get to know people is really important, and to appreciate people, the fact that, oh, we do see things differently. We have got different backgrounds and different views and perspectives. And remember, here's a quick tip from me. If you are trying to get to know people, the first thing you need is rapport. The rapport leads to respect. There is no respect without rapport. This is such an important point. So when Angelica was talking about the value of going along to things like a coffee morning, or getting to know people, chatting to people, sometimes that little bit of small talk can build relationships. I just want to ask if there's anything that you want to say, either of you two want to say about this, because I think it can be one of the really challenging things, isn't it? So taking that time to sometimes step back and think, okay, well, you know, how does that other person see the world? And can I just take that time to just get to know them a little? I don't know if there's anything that either of you want to say there about that, about, you know, the importance of us understanding that. Yeah, Marco, you seem almost tempted.
I don't know. And I'll let Angelica have the answer first, I think.
Yeah. Angelica, anything you want to say?
Wise.
No, my brain is not working well enough for that.
Just to say, all I'll say then, everyone at home, you know, this is something, it's an ongoing thing. We've got different personalities, we've got different skills, and we've got different concerns. So I'll just liken it to a really simple thing. Let's say you're in the co-op and you're having a challenge with your neighbor or somebody at a committee, think about, well, maybe their personality or their style is different. Maybe their concerns are different to yours, and try and just take that time to build that rapport. Sometimes just that, taking that little time before a meeting starts, chatting to them over a cup of coffee, can really just help humanize it, or just waving to them when you see them on the streets. Maybe that might just change things that little bit.
I have got something to add
yeah,
now.
please, Angelica.
Because it's what I find in meetings, it's because we have to get things done. That's really important. And there are issues and there are, kind of decisions to be made. So it's all very heady, kind of your head needs to tick. And then, if there are different opinions, that can also slip into there's the whole person. If you disagree, let's say, with an opinion, and I find it's really helpful if you know the person as a human being with heart, with your heart as well, then it's a different perspective.
I think
and
that's
so, kind of, I think and that is the challenge in our co-op, in our setup, is on one side are a business. So also psychologically, we have to work as a business, with decision making. And on the other hand, we are tenants, we are neighbors, we know each other. And, and so it's always important also to have compassion. That's the right word. To have compassion.
That's so wise.
Yep.
I think that's so wise. And I think when we bring in the next slide, that really helps us. I think that what you brought about that bring human, it's almost as though it was planned, Angelica, because if we look at this thing down here, we've got our own physiological needs, housing, that's what we set up, isn't it? Our safety needs to feel comfortable. We want to belong, we want a sense of belonging. Maybe that's why some people joined a community, but we might have our own feelings of our own esteem needs, the things that we're wanting to try and achieve. And then there's this thing right at the top about self-actualization, purpose. So these are all different factors at play. I'm not going to go into this into too much detail, but we cover it in a separate how-to. But I often liken it like this. You've got different types of people. You get people. It's about people, feelings, purpose, and meanings. And as you listen to this at home, think which are you. There are process people. There are people about tasks, details, facts, policies, procedures. There are people who are very pragmatic. It's about being very action. They want to just roll their sleeves up and do things. There are people who are quite political. They're aware of the power, influence. They're strategic. They think about the big picture. And there are people who are philosophical. They reflect. It's about ideas, meaning, and growth. Most of us are a blend of this. And I think the funny thing is that when you start to think about the BHC and the committees, think about who's which. Most people will be a blend, but you might think, oh my gosh, yeah, that person's a people person. No wonder I see things differently. I'm very much caught up in process. Or this person's really pragmatic. That's why they want to move the conversation along. Or this person's a political person. They're thinking about it from this perspective. And this person, they're not wanting to slow us down. They're philosophical. They're wanting us to think about the big picture. I think this can be really useful, again, thinking about our personality types and realizing that we're different. I think the challenge for us at BHC, the more we can get a mixture of different people in our committees who think differently, that we'll get better decision making. And I don't know if there's anything to say about that, Margot. Anything? Yeah, Margot. Oh, Angelica. Yeah, let's bring you in.
It's and I think that the amazing thing is that's an absolute bonus we have, that we have got so many different people, but that's also, of course, also the friction. Can cause friction because of the differences. And I think that's so wonderful, because if one is aware of it, then we can, it's the best can come out, a pragmatic person or, a political person, if they have got the space to thrive and be respected. Because then there was something at the beginning about goals, goals of the co-op. And I think that's my dream of the co-op, that, it's an organization, it's a setup that encourages bringing out the best in people.
I think
and
that's such a
with
powerful.
respect. So, yep.
I think that's so powerful. And Margaret, did you want to add anything? But I think that those things that that Angelica was saying, they were so powerful. If we can begin to understand people, and because we have got this such diversity, let them trying to begin to let them flourish at certain things. Because I'm amazed some people are really good at some things that I'm just absolutely no good at. Yeah. Anything you wanted to add to that, Margot? Yeah.
No, I think I agree. Well done, Angelica, for what she said. Really, that was really thoughtful. But I think I agree that the more you have, a mix of people on the committees, really, the more you can encourage that, and people who think in different ways and can see things from different ways, really. And the more we encourage that, as you say, we make better decisions like that because it's really balanced and we've really thought about it, thought
Absolutely.
about it in all aspects, really.
Absolutely. And I would say to anyone two things that, if you're going along to commit and you think, oh, I don't fit here, I think differently, great, because they've got somebody who's got a different lens to help us think about things in the round. But also think about this in your own life, valuing different people who can bring different perspectives, who can help you with different things. I'm only going to just briefly talk about this, but we also have different learning styles. Some people be very visual. I'm a very visual person, so I like slides. I like to be able to see things. Some people are very auditory. They like to be able to talk things through. Some people are very kinesthetic. They like to do things. Most people are a blend. So it's worth thinking about, what are you? And what are the other people? It might be, oh, what are the different people in your friendship group? What are other people in your committee? So sometimes, for example, if I was in a meeting and there was nothing visually to look at, I find that really difficult. So it's worth thinking about having something for the different learning styles. And actually, when we come to do the team session, for example, the membership group, I think we'll touch on this just to make sure that we're addressing things for different people's learning styles. A really simple example is, let's say that you happen to be on the maintenance committee and somebody was talking about, let's say, an issue with, I don't know, a boiler or this or that. Having a picture, or there was a thingy for somebody who's visual, then being able to see it. Oh, I can see now what the issue is. These little things, or for somebody who's auditory, talking it through and asking those questions, or kinesthetic, the kind of person who might want to go on that site visit to that particular house, whatever. So it's really worth just thinking about, how do we learn in order to get the best out of ourselves. This slide, very briefly, is about different personal impact. There are a number of things in which we make an impact. There's our visual appearance and our body language. So, for example, at meetings, bear in mind that our demeanor, so is really important. Am I smiling? Do I look as though I'm bored, as I'm going to fall asleep? All of these different things. Our appearance has a big impact on people, and so does our voice, our delivery. I speak sometimes quite fast. Sometimes I might need to slow down. Our pace, and also the words that we choose. Now, you might be wondering, well, what's this thing to do with 55%, 38%, 7%? It's not to say that your appearance is more important than your voice, and your voice is more important than your words. But I often give this example. If I was to begin today's session, say, hi, I'm Rashid, and today's session we're going to be talking about being cooperative, and it's going to give you an opportunity to learn more about BHC. You probably then place about 55% in your judgment on my appearance, because you can see I'm hiding beneath, below this piece of paper, and 38% on my voice, because you could hear my voice was trailing off. I didn't feel confident. And only 7% on my words, even though my words were true. So the important things here is that they're all important. Your appearance, your voice, and your words, they're all very important. Angelica was just talking a little bit about goals and goal setting. It might be that if you're watching this at the beginning of the year, or any time in the year, really, you might have goals that you're wanting to set. And I was just going to share a really quick tip that you can go away with at home and use on any goals that you're wanting to achieve personally, or in your career, or socially, or within BHC. And it's a method that uses SMART goal setting. So many people here might be familiar with it, perhaps from their background or career. SMART is where you're being specific, measurable, agreeing, realistic, and time-based goals. But the tool here it's called the GROW model. And the G stands for goal. So in other words, what's your goal? What you're trying to achieve? So it might be, okay, my goal is to clear my garage by the end of February and the year. So let's say, okay, the goal is to clear the garage by the end of February 2000 and whatever. Okay, the next stage is reality. Where are you at right now in relationship to your goal? Well, the garage is full. It's full of loads of stuff, lots of stuff. Some of it's been in there for 20 years. I'm daunted by it. I don't even know who some of this stuff belongs to. So that's reality. The next stage is the option stage. The option stage is, well, what are all of the options that you could take to clear the garage by the end of February 2020, whatever? And then they might think, okay, well, I could go for it bit by bit. I could clear it out week by week. I could hire a skip. Oh, what else could I do? I could ask some friends to help me. I could leave some things outside with a note saying, please take. I could, so the option stage, you want to come through all of the options that you can possibly think, including things, well, what would my best friend do? What would I do if I had no fear? I might need to recycle bits of it. The idea here is that you want to keep pushing yourself, well, all of the options. And then finally, what will you do and when? So it might be, okay, I'm going to bring my 4 best friends next Saturday and ask them to spend the last Sunday of next month helping me clear out the garage or whatever. So this is just a tool that anybody can use to help them goal set in their lives. Just wanted to say a very, very quick thing about this, about communication. It's so key when you're trying to get anything done. First of all, think about what's your goal, what's it you're trying to achieve, right? So it might be, okay, I want the committee to agree that we're going to spend half a session talking about blah, 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 or it could be anything. My goal is to gain this new job by this date. Who is your audience? So once you know your goal, who's your audience? Because what do they want? What their desires, what their fears, their needs? Because you're going to need to tailor it to them. And what's going on in the context in the environment? Is now a good time? There might be some things that might impact on the best way to have that conversation. It might be, you might be thinking, well, my goal is to chat to my neighbor about blah, blah, blah. Well, what's the context of the environment? You might decide, well, the context of the environment is that we haven't been getting on that well and the garden fence is blown down. Maybe it's not best to have that conversation in the street. You know what I mean? So sometimes what's the context that you're operating in and what's the environment? It might be the social environment, your literal physical environment. And then what's the message? Who's the best messenger? This is really useful for BHC. Who's the best messenger? Sometimes there might be something you might want to say at a committee meeting, and you might not be the best person. I might be the kind of person who's going to really rub them up the wrong way. I might be best to speak to my friend Margot and say, hi, Margot. I was concerned about this. I know that last time when I mentioned it at a meeting, I didn't say it very well. Is it something that perhaps you might feel is appropriate that you might mention? So sometimes it might well be, it's worth thinking about who is the best messenger. Now, very often in life, the messenger will need to be us, but it's really worth thinking about that. And what's the best means or method? Is the best method to have that conversation, sending somebody a stern email or having a gentle, quiet word? It will depend what you're trying to do. So really think about what's the message, who's the best messenger, and what's the best medium. But when you're delivering it, be clear, be calm, be considered. Considers is really important. Don't just dive in there. I've seen, particularly in BHC in meetings, it can go all horribly wrong if we haven't really been considered about what we're going to say and when. So yeah, if you're wanting to get, if you're watching this at home, it's worth you thinking about, okay, what are the things, let's talk a little bit about getting organized. How do you tend to get things done at home? How do you tend to get things done at work? What works for you and what doesn't work for you? I mean, I don't know about yourselves, but for me to be organized, I'm a morning person. I like clear desk space. I like to have clear files and folders. I often have, you won't be able to see here, but I'll often have things on the wall to remind me. So it's just about knowing yourself. Here are a few tips. Perhaps have a strategy, have a plan, create space and simplicity, and take that time out. Like Angelica was talking about the time for meditation, and Margot was talking about the time and the allotment, and have systems, files, folders, and so on, and get support. I just want to ask you both, do you find being organized easy? Do you have a good routine, or do you tend to go with the flow? I can see, Angelica, my dear friend, I can see that you're... So, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I've got better at it. I must admit, I have got better than I was. I mean, I used to be organised when I was working. I had to be, you know, but my home organisation has never been brilliant. So, yeah, I'm getting better. I'm
Yeah.
improving on it. Yeah.
yeah, it's an ongoing one. Angelica, anything you wanted to say?
That's why I need your workshop still. That's why I still come, so that it really, really, really sinks in. No, I'm a clutter person, and it takes a lot of energy. So, yep, I like your influence, Rashid.
Oh, that's kind. I mean, I think it can be an ongoing thing. And it's interesting. There's something that Margot said there that was interesting. You get some people are really organized in one part of their life, but they might be as organized in another part. So sometimes it's worth thinking, okay, what are the things that I can take from my old working life into my day-to-home life, or vice versa? But I'd say, you know, sometimes having a plan can help. Giving yourself, sometimes it's the space, the thinking space to think about things, but I also think it's about keeping things simple. Knowing what works for you is really, really important here. And sometimes it might be, with some things, it's worth asking yourself, are you best at doing those things by yourself, or are you the kind of social person? So some people, it might well be, let's say that they were going to have a house clear up. Well, maybe some people are so social, they might turn it into a little bit of a fun party with friends. I mean, it seems like a silly example. Let's say somebody wants to decide to get fit and they decide to go for walks or whatever. And they might feel that actually, no, I enjoy the company of somebody else. So for example, many Saturdays, I'll often walk to the gym with a friend of mine who also lives in BHC. And that, because for me, that's just a nice way to do it. We have a little bit of a catch up, and it's a way of me doing that. So it's worth thinking about what works for you. We're all different. We're heading toward the end, but one thing that I did want to say that can be really useful when it comes to getting things done is knowing, and this can be a fun, this might be also one that might be really a fun game for when we do the membership away day. Getting things done. Let's say if you're trying to get things as a team, for example, what's the destination? Where is it you're going to? Where's BHC going to? Where's the committee going to? Do we know? What's the motivation? What motivates people? Some people are motivated because they really want to make life better. Some people are motivated because they need to get their house, be housed. Some people are motivated because they love catching up with people or having a free dinner. I'm making that up. I'm being playful, but everyone will be different motivated. What's the inspiration? What will inspire people? This is an interesting one, designation. What's the best roles? Now, this is really important. We often underplay this. You know, I've always been a people person. So if you've got a people person, maybe you might make them the person who, when you've got a new member of the committee, helps them to feel comfortable. Or, you know, maybe you've got somebody who's really good with written things. Maybe they're the kind of person in the membership committee might write those letters when people have written in. You know, what's the best role to have different people in that really suits their style and their skills and their personality? And for that, we need to ask them. Regulations, what are the rules and regulations we need to abide by? BHC has got many. A quick tip here for many committees is that I've noticed I've been at so many meetings and points of rules and regulations will come up. And I thought, well, it's really interesting, but maybe somebody in that committee should always have the policies and procedures. Maybe they're the policies and procedures person, and there's a question that comes up about policy and procedure, and rather than wasting 15 minutes going around the houses, somebody pulls up them and reads those things so it's addressed. It's worth thinking about things like that. Communication and cooperation, that's ongoing. And a quick tip here, it might be that you really struggle to get on with somebody in the meeting, but they might be fine, happy as outside. So it might be outside you do that warming up. Oh, I'm so sorry if I seem like that in the meeting. I sometimes get a little bit stressed. And the fact that things go quickly mean that I often struggle to follow the discussion or what have you. So communication and cooperation, both within and outside. Perspiration is about putting in the work. We are a co-op together. So it's important that we all pull our own weight. The number 10 is so important. Appreciation, celebration. Giving people feedback, saying thank you so much for doing the minutes, thanks so much for coming along, Angelica and Margot, and bringing this to life with your warmth and your knowledge. I think these are really important. And my homework, fun homework for everyone who's watching this, and even for yourselves, is to, on a piece of paper, and I'm not going to get you to share it with the room, pick 2 or 3 of these where you think you're strong, You might think, I'm quite good at the motivation. I'm quite good with communication. And also then maybe pick 2 or 3 where you feel that you need to work on. You might think, I need to know more about the BHC rules and regulations, the policies and procedures. I need to need to be better at the appreciation, saying thanks to people. It's worth thinking about where are you strong and what are your development areas. And if you, let's say we're chairing a committee, where are we strong as a committee and where are we weaker? And I think this will be a lovely exercise actually for us to do with the maintenance thing, because it's a lovely, easy thing that people can just have a view on. I love this. And some people love metaphors and the visual things. This could be so if you're this at home, have fun with this. Maybe when we've stopped the recording, I might ask my 2 friends here what they listed, but this is a really fun way. And this you can apply it to anything, home, work, wherever you are. I'm not going to talk too much about this, about communication, because we have a separate session on all of that. But what I will say is know your goals, consider your audience, learn, watch, and prepare and deliver calmly. So all of the stuff here and about giving positive feedback, and we cover actually we've got a session around communicating effectively. So I'm not going to go into it in more detail. I had talked about the importance of giving yourself space. Perhaps you might be person who's needing to just add a little bit more structure to what you're doing in your life, or is it about making things simple? So for me, life is at its best is a blend of these things. Is it for you about bringing more space, more you time, more meditation time, more time in the garden? Is it about bringing in a little bit more structure, or is it about simplifying things? Maybe you're just trying to do too much. Something to think about there. And again, if you're watching this at home, you might want to pause it if you want to sit with this slide. Finally, as we begin to wrap up, here again are the BHC cooperative principles, and it's worth thinking about how is it that we can adhere to these, being democratic, being open, making sure that people are cooperating, that autonomy, the education, cooperating and concern for community. I might, with Angelica and Margot after this, we might just have a couple of minutes where we just pick up on some of those things. But it's but the thing that I'd invite anyone here watching this at home to think about is, what does being cooperative mean for you? And how is it that we could be more cooperative? And how could we encourage more people to be more active members of BHC? We're going to have that chat now here in this room briefly, but if you've been watching this at home, I just want to say a big thank you. Here is some summary. If you're trying to get anything done, be strategic, set those goals, plan and prepare. Think about the people who can help you. You might want to practice or preview it in your head, visualize it. And remember, ongoing is the way that we perfect step by step. It's an ongoing journey. Build your network and your skills and support. Be proactive, be positive, be clear and crisp in your communication. Take that time out, know when to rest and recharge and review and reflect. So those things will kind of help you on your journey. So I'm going to leave this slide up there for anybody who's watching at home and who is who's watching this, just so that you can reflect on these things. So I'm going to stop the recording if you're here at home. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Let me just stop the share for a moment. And let me just stop the recording. Thank you if you've been watching at home. And let's say a quick bye-bye from ourselves. We're going to stay here, but if anyone was watching at home, let's wish them all the best.
Bye.
Thanks so much, everybody. We wish you all the best. And